All right, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
Ms. Jones?
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Goodpaster,
Yes.
Mrs. Guffey,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes Hubbard.
Yes. All right. First up, we have recognition of our 2023-2024 retirees. Dr. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Ritchie is going to assist with this, but we are going to call up the retirees from this year and thank them for their service, and we have a gift here for them.
We are honored tonight to recognize our retirees. We have some with us and some who are not with us. And we will begin, and if when you hear your name called, if you would come up, please. First of all, Jan Black Ramey. She has been employed with our school division since October 1998. During her tenure with BVPS, she served as a special education aide, special education teacher, and most recently an art teacher. Donna Boardwine. She has been employed with our school division since October 2018. During her tenure with our division, she has served as a day porter. Anna Campbell. Anna has been employed with our school division since July 1999, and if I counted that up right, that's 24 years of service. Is that right? During her tenure with our division, she has served as an elementary teacher, most recently a kindergarten teacher. Let's give Anna a big round of applause. Karen Cross has been employed with our division since August of 2011. She's worked at Virginia Middle School as a history social sciences teacher. In 2001, Karen was the McLaughlin Award winner for teacher excellence. Maxine Duff has been employed with our division since August 1983. I think that's 41 years of service. During her tenure with our division, she has served as an elementary teacher. Sharon Gorley has been employed with our division since May 2019. During her tenure with our division, she has served as a night shift custodian. Let's give Sharon a big round of applause. Wayne Rasnick has been employed with our division since August 1991. During his tenure with BVPS, he has served the division as a secondary history social sciences teacher and head basketball coach. Trish Tolley has been employed with our division since April 2018. During her tenure with our division, she has served as a speech language pathologist. Let's give Trish a big round of applause. Jeanette Triplett has been employed with BVPS since August 1991. She has spent most of that time at Van Pelt Elementary, and during her tenure with our division, she has served as an elementary teacher, especially kindergarten. And lastly is Jennifer Hurt. Jennifer has been employed with our division since October 1989. If I counted right, that's 35 years. She does not look that old. During her tenure with our division, she has served as a central office secretary, Title I homeschool coordinator, and the director of federal programs in elementary education. Let's give Jennifer a big round of applause.
Yes, please come back. We'll move on now to a recognition of our attendance staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This past year, Bristol, Virginia Public Schools has been privileged to work with some outstanding attendance officers and attendance clerks. This has been one of the major priorities in our school focus this year. We know that we are in an area that has been at times held back by non-attendance by students. And so we have made endeavors to keep this wonderful staff intact for the upcoming school year. And we want to recognize their efforts this year. And I would like to call Miss Sarah DeBusk behind me. She's behind me. So Sarah is going to help recognize these attendance officers and attendance clerks.
I am very thankful to be a part of this team, of this group of people, and just coming into this position in February, I feel like we already have a really good dynamic to move forward in the future, and I'm really excited to have them all here. First, I'll recognize Mr. Scott Jones and Mr. Andrew Walden. They have spent countless hours on the road, making home visits, making sure our friends are here at school, and I'm very thankful for them. Miss Melanie Baker, she is our elementary attendance clerk, and she has made over 7,000 text messages, phone calls, over 200 attendance meetings, just making sure that these kids are here getting their education. Thank you. Katrina Hughes from the middle school, she works really hard. She's very dedicated, very knowledgeable in what she does, making thousands of text messages and phone calls and attendance meetings, and we've seen improvement in our attendance at all levels. Honda Stevens from Virginia High School. She has a big job looking and finding all of those high schoolers and motivating them and getting them to come to school, and we appreciate her.
Well, I want to say thank you again to everyone who works with the attendance effort. The statistics bear out the hard work that you've put into this, and we're hopeful to see that trend continue next year. Thank you for the thousands upon thousands of messages that you have sent. And I know from doing work like that that you're not always met with the kindest of reception on the other end. And so thank you for your diligence and your patience. It is definitely worth the effort that you put into it, and like I said, the statistics are bearing out the difference that you're making.
Yes, we appreciate what you all do so much. We know, as Dr. Scott mentioned, it's probably not the most pleasant job in the school system, probably one of the least pleasant, but we appreciate the effort that you all are putting in, following up with our families, making sure our kiddos are at school, and all of our retirees. That's so much service that we are losing this year, so much cumulative service, and we've all been the beneficiaries of the wonderful efforts that you all and the folks who are not here but were listed have put into our children and our community. We appreciate you so much.
I'd like to just say thank you to all of you for the job you do, because it takes more than a village these days to raise our kids. So I appreciate your efforts.
I want to first thank all the teachers that spent their career and many years and hard hours with us, and we appreciate you. It doesn't go unnoticed. And then also our attendance officers. I guess you're working in the trenches, and we really don't see you, and it's not out there in the forefront, but your hard work has paid off, and we really appreciate you. Thank you.
And I want to add my congratulations to everybody that has had a really good career in this school system and helped to make it the system, a successful system that we have. And dealing with children and getting them to come to school is a tall order. And fortunately, I had parents that kicked me out of the house every day, but that's not the case with the student population we have these days. And so congratulations to working with the population that we now have in the 21st century. Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next item on our agenda is a recognition of you. And it is bittersweet. We want to take a moment to celebrate what you have meant to this board, and thank you for your leadership. But it's bittersweet because we also know that we will be parting ways with you after this meeting, and that is not to knock in any way the leadership that Mrs. Guffey will be bringing behind you. But as I told you, you're going to be tough to replace, and we value everything you've done. And I'd like to open it up to the board for additional comments, and then we'll let Madam Chair have the final word on that.
Madam Chairman, I don't use the neologisms, as you well know, but I want to thank you for your, first you were appointed and then ran for election successfully. And you're a quick study and you jump into it head first, and you're on the board of the School Boards Association, and you represent our school system very well. And thank you for your service, and best wishes and Godspeed as you go to Richmond.
Thank you.
I'd also like to add, just like Mr. Goodpasture said, Breanne was appointed and then ran and was elected, and I mean, it seems like it was yesterday. And anyway, I'm glad she was our chair. She's done a fine job and a good leader. And she not only looks after, I mean, she knows, seems like all the students and all the teachers and all the neighbors and all the parents, and she takes care of the neighborhoods around the schools and knows what's going on. And she's just quite intelligent. But good luck to you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I see you found your tissues. I appreciate you. I have enjoyed working with you and learning from you. You do such a good job at looking so far forward, and not just forward, but around. And to step into your position is a little bit daunting, and thinking, do I know enough? And someone said one day, when I grow up, I want to be just like Breanne. And I decided, well, when I grow up, I want to be a little like Breanne, because she's involved in so many things, and I might not be able to handle all of that. I wish you well and your family in your next endeavor, and appreciate our friendship, and that if I have a question, I still have your phone number handy.
And before we turn things over to you, Stephanie, would you assist with the gift for Ms. Forbes Hubbard? We also want to acknowledge that some of her family is here this evening, and we thank you guys for allowing her to serve in this position with us and for sharing her time with us. And we wish you all the luck in the world, too, as you head out to the eastern part of the state. But at this time, we would like to bestow a gift upon you.
I'm going to take this opportunity to read you all this book I got at VSBA. I'm just kidding, I won't do that, but I could see the fear in your eyes because you knew I might read you a book here tonight. As many of you know, I worked at Van Pelt in Washington Lee as an aide a couple years ago. And when I left, I told Mr. Rader, the principal, that it was my favorite job and it would never be topped. Even though I had children throwing up on my shoes and snotty everywhere, it was wonderful working with the kids, and I thought I could never find something better. It turns out that this is my favorite job, and this is going to be impossible to top, and I feel pretty confident that that one's going to hold. No one has thrown up on my shoes in this role, so it's ahead of the game. Yet, there's still time. This is a really special school board. If you pay attention to school boards around the state or the country, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of infighting, there's a lot of nastiness from sometimes from the community and from fellow board members to each other. We're a very cohesive board. We get along really well. We do our job of taking care of the students and teachers in the system, and I like to brag about it when I go to conferences, but want to brag on you all. This has nothing to do with me. It was before I started, and I'll carry on afterwards, but it's really special board to serve on. Our school system is really special too. As you all know, we're a little bit smaller. We only have one high school, one middle school, and soon to be one primary and intermediate, but that means that you get to put all of your energy into one team, one group of teams, one group of, one band, one choir, one whatever it is that the activity is. You can focus all in on Virginia High, Virginia Middle. You don't have to split it between multiple different schools. You get to go to one graduation. You get to care about one group of students and one group of teachers the most because they can be your favorite because you don't have a lot to represent. So that means that you get to have deeper connections with the people that you serve, and that's been really extraordinary for me. It's very much been an honor and a privilege to be on this board, and I thank you all for being so receptive and wonderful to someone who is not from here. And I've just really, really loved being on the school board. I don't know that there's another person in the world that loves being on the school board as much as I do, as a pro and a con, but I've really loved my time here, and thank you all.
At this time, Madam Chair, we would like to take a 10-minute recess to have a reception in your honor.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will begin again this month with our report on the construction at the intermediate school. And I am very excited about the fact that it is punch list time at Virginia Intermediate School. Several of us got to tour the building last week with an entourage from Skanska and from J.A. Street. And we got to see, as we're going through here, seeing pictures of the restrooms and pictures of the stage and the accessibility being added there. But overall, through the school, it is so wonderfully different than it was when I first toured it in August. Seeing the colors on all the hallways, seeing completed classrooms, down to the audio system that we've placed in the classrooms and the smart boards hanging on the walls. Everything is coming together very well. Now, on our punch list tour, we were picky customers, and we noted every little place where the paint was not 100% how we wanted it, or if there's a door jamb that wasn't quite how we needed it. So we were picky customers, but at the same time as future occupants of that building, we were like kids in a candy store. I think that the whole place feels very warm and very inviting, and I can't wait to see our teachers and our students and our families going through the educational process at that school. Ms. Austin, if you would pull up the video for me. So there has been discussion recently about the restrooms at the new school, and this is about a 2-minute video where you can see some of the restrooms that are going to be on the 4th and 5th grade hallways. These have fully enclosed stalls. This one is outfitted with 6 stalls. One of them has a urinal in it, and then there are 3 more conventional style toilets in there. But you can see that these are designed with the safety and the privacy of the student in mind. So those doors and the stall walls go from ceiling to floor to prevent anybody from getting in them. That's not very well stated. Somebody can get in them, and when inside, you can lock the door from the inside, and they do have a safety mechanism on the outside so that if there's an emergency going on in the bathroom, you can enter from the outside. This is another one of those restrooms. This has, I believe, 8 different stalls. Again, a urinal here in the first one, and then there are 2 handicap stalls going down this bay of restrooms. The nice thing about this is, as you can see from the hallway, when you have a class full of students, you don't have to admit your whole class into the bathroom, but you can send 4 or 5 in at a time. You can monitor from the hallway what's going on at the sinks, and also keep an eye on the students that you have in the hallway. So I think from a safety standpoint, a lot of the misbehavior that happens in our schools tends to happen in bathrooms, and this should cut down on that tremendously by putting supervision into place where you'll be able to see all the students. They'll have their privacy intact, but you'll be able to keep a pretty good eye on it. And then this last little view shows the Jack and Jill style bathrooms that are between every second and third grade classroom on the other wing. So there's literally 2 restrooms, private restrooms, between every second and third grade bathroom. So students in second and third grade should not ever be in a situation where they're being crowded out of a restroom opportunity by 4th and 5th grade students. So I know that there had been some comments about those restrooms, but I hope that a picture is worth 1,000 words there, and people have a better understanding of what we're doing for the safety and privacy of students at the intermediate school. So that brings us to our summer schedules. The staff across the school division began summer hours today. We were thrilled to be here early, and I actually was, I think, the last one to central office today. So I was greeted by a full staff here that was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. With very few exceptions, employees across the division will be working 4 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday. We do have our maintenance department. Some of them are represented here this evening. Maintenance will have 2 teams, one team that works Monday through Thursday, 4 10s, and a team that works Tuesday through Friday, 4 10s. That's so that we can have somewhat continuous operation for all the different projects that are going on. We also have summer school at Washington and Lee for students who attend Washington and Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and Van Pelt, and that summer school will run the 10th through the 21st, and so we're setting that up as 2 5-day weeks, but in actuality, it'll be 9 days of summer school because they will be off on June 19th for the Juneteenth holiday. The summer schedule was pretty busy, beginning with the build-out at what is Van Pelt today, but in a month will be Virginia Primary School. Our maintenance staff has absorbed some of the custodial staff, and we'll have, Mr. Buckles will have about 35 different employees under his care this summer, working on 10,000 square feet of renovation. They are going to be forming 8 new classrooms in the hallway, the back hallway at the primary school. They're going to be upgrading the HVAC system, adding heating and cooling at the nursing center, the nursing clinic, rather, and different refrigeration for the cafeteria area. So I got over to see them very briefly today, and within about half a day's time, they had completely, almost completely demolished the pods that were on that back hallway and have made remarkable progress in just one day. But we know that there is a pretty rigorous schedule ahead of them for what they'll be undertaking there. That's in addition to all the regular maintenance work that they have as far as getting floors taken care of at the other schools and work orders. So much work that we are going to be asking teachers and administrators to hold off on the work orders until July or even mid-July. So we know that the maintenance department has a lot ahead of them and a lot of pressure on them, and want them to know that they have our support, and anything that we can do, we will be sure to be there to help and sweat right alongside with them. The moving process for all the teachers that are coming from the elementary schools and going to either Virginia Primary or Virginia Intermediate School, so far we are on schedule with our timeline. Teachers have done an excellent job of boxing up the materials that need to be moved along, and I want to thank Dr. Denabraga for her help steering a lot of that and helping to coordinate the logistics for that. We will have custodians and paraprofessionals working with our teachers as much as possible, and are even giving our teachers an extra paid day this summer to help with the boxing effort. And we look forward to that being a lot of work and a lot of purging that goes along with that, so that we want to make sure that the qualities that we're bringing into the 2 new schools are high-quality materials and in good shape. And because of that, we're figuring out our process for adding items to a surplus list or making donations where we can of outdated materials. As I mentioned, we have a summer school going on at Washington and Lee for 3 of the elementary schools. The 4th existing elementary school, Highland View, through their 21st Century grant, they are actually going to be at Virginia Middle School for this summer. And then we will have 2 sessions of middle school summer school and 2 sessions of high school summer school. In addition to all of that, Ms. Jennifer Hurt has provided some information about the pre-K 3 summer program at the high school, which will be taking place in June. We have a transition camp for rising 6th graders at the middle school. And then towards the end of July, early August, we have the WindShape camp at the high school. So with all the different camps that we have going on, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we are implementing this summer is the Evolve safety scanners. They have started to show up today and are being installed, and I think Jeff Shelton and his team will have some training on that tomorrow. But we're going to have those in place for summer school at the high school, and make sure that we are figuring out how to use those systems and making sure that we are getting advanced training for advances early in the summer before we have our training in August for the staff that will be using those. So I look forward to sharing in July and August some video of those in use. Mr. Shelton is also working with Mr. Buckles on a secure vestibule for the middle school, and we have some details to iron out with that. But that should be a nice security upgrade by the time the next school year starts. And then the Centegix push-button response system that we've talked about a couple different times, that will be incorporated this summer and have training on that when we get back to school in August. So a lot of exciting things happening on the technology and safety front. I do want to mention very briefly the year that we just wrapped up. While we have some preliminary SOL results, we're still kind of digging through those things, and we want to make sure that we have all of our numbers in order for you and report that back in July. But from preliminary results, looks like we're in about the same shape as last year, and definitely have some things to celebrate there. We had a wonderful graduation ceremony. I want to thank Mr. Collins for that on May 24th. It was my first time seeing the graduation ceremony at Virginia High, and about your 40th, 50th time hosting that event, Mr. Collins. But it was a very special evening for our graduates and for their parents, and I thank the board members for joining us for that. This past week, we had some joyful moments at the elementary school and middle school, and reminds me that at this time of year, we have some staff members who get to spend the whole summer working to improve our schools for the upcoming year. But we have some very dedicated staff who have used up all of their energy and all their enthusiasm over the last 10 months and get to start a well-deserved break. And even as I say that, I know that we have a number of teachers who have enlisted their services for the summer school effort. So I hope that all of our teachers, all of our paraprofessionals that have been able to start relaxing and get a full summer to recharge their batteries. A couple things to keep an eye out for. We have one of our best all-around student athletes, Miss Ellie Cobb, is a finalist for the Pappy Thompson Award. This is a sports journalism award, and I think from what Mr. Harper told me, she is maybe the third or fourth VHS student ever to reach this far in the award selection. Is that about true, Brad? In Brad's time. Okay, so Miss Ellie Cobb, who just graduated, she is a finalist for that. We have a staff member that we need to keep an eye out for. Miss Leah Parks in our school nutrition department is in a Top Chef contest, and she is currently sitting in 6th position with an elimination round coming up. We believe that she's going to be safe there, but it is in pursuit of being Top Chef and has recently been awarded the Black Chef's Coat, which is kind of like a black belt for chefs, is my understanding of it. But she continues to be a bright spot for our school nutrition department, and we all support her going forward with the Top Chef contest. And lastly, just wanted to mention that our track team sent 19 students to compete at the state track meet at JMU this past weekend. And we have one state champion winner, and our girls finished 8th overall in the state. So successful year again for the track team, and look forward for more great things to come from them. But that concludes my report for this afternoon.
That's a lot of excitement going on. Appreciate all did you want to talk about the new website?
I'm so sorry. I did not have the new website in my notes in front of me, but yes, we, on Friday evening, Friday the 31st, we flipped over and launched our new website. And I want to thank Mr. Jeff Shelton and Tracy Dingus and Logan Childress for all the work that they've put onto this, and guiding the process and working with our consultants from App to G. But we do have our new website up and running now, and we are going to be doing a rollout for parents closer to the start of the school year, and we will make a QR code available where you can download the new app. But our intention is that the new website will give us a one-stop shop for all of our school information. It will allow us, with just the push of a button, to push out the same message, the same accurate information from our school website to our social media platforms, and give parents the opportunity to select or to choose how their app not reads to them, but presents information to them, so that they can customize that. They can get the feeds for any of our schools or all of our schools. They can get division level information. they can select their menus so that they're getting the sports feed up front. So I think this will be a very good tool for us going forward. And again, I know I named a few people who helped with that, but there are a lot of people behind the scenes who have also helped to kind of cull some of the bad information or outdated information that was on our website and really streamline things. So I think we have a really good product, and looking forward to getting some training on that this summer so that we become very proficient users of it.
Thank you. Also, I may have said this before up here, but with the Golden V and with graduation recently, I wanted to appreciate Mr. Collins for the wonderful work he does in emceeing our students through these moments. They're really nervous when they come up to give their speeches or when they come up across the stage, and they kind of forget to shake our hands half the time because they're focused on getting out. But it's a big moment for them, and he does a great job to make them feel comfortable and get them in line, and I just always really appreciate how he shepherds them through those events, so thank you for that.
You're here.
Oh, next, okay, sorry. Next is public comment. I don't have anyone signed up for public comment. Anyone wants to speak? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Ms. Jones?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, moving on to action item 5A, approval of the updated 2024-2025 school board budget. Turn it over to Dr. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In March, we presented a budget to you that at the time was a little bit bleak compared to where we are right now. I have in the column that is populated right there an overview of what the revenue looked like, and then this chart will be filled out as we go through so that you can see the proposed revisions and where the growth has happened. But what I want you to understand with the budget that we presented in March compared to where we are today, in March, the discussions that we were having were about the fact that this upcoming year was going to be the first after the federal ESSER funds had expired. And so we were fortunate with ESSER funds to be able to add a lot of positions into our budget that supported teachers instructionally. And we had some very difficult decisions to make about sustaining those positions when that federal funding went away. So at the time of the March presentation, we were making those difficult decisions, and we were talking about eliminating positions, and we were talking about prioritizing things and what positions could be sustained in the local budget. Funding from the state at that time was projected to be about $32.8 million, and that had represented an increase of about $1.7 million over the previous year's budget. Local required effort, or what the city is required to provide, was almost $8 million, plus another $322,000 in debt services, so just over $8 million or $8.3 million from the city. And the combined increase in the state and local funding was projected to be about $1.9 million. So everything that we were trying to do in March was to live within that growth margin of $1.9 million. At the time, the governor's proposed budget, the target was to be able to give all employees a 1% increase, and our plan at the time was to give everybody one step on their employee scales, which was going to average out to about 1.5%. I'm sorry, 1.245. Excuse me, I'm getting tongue-tied up here. That one-step increase was going to provide a 1.25% salary increase. As far as benefits, we knew that there was going to be an increase in the cost for the single subscriber, and BVPS was going to absorb that cost. Our rationale was that with a pretty modest salary increase, we didn't also want to pass along the cost of the increase in benefits. Our discussions around personnel were pretty much about retention. Who could we retain? Who could we reassign? And what positions had to be eliminated? And it was the case that we only had one position at the time that was going to be added, and that was a position that was funded with some indirect costs and was going to be shared between maintenance and school nutrition. And as far as other items in our budget, other than kind of taking minor adjustments to meet operational needs, the only major expenditure that we really had in there was the purchase of one school bus. And I think that we are, at the time, we were looking at the fact that we had not been able to replenish our bus fleet to the full extent in several years. Good news is that the revenue has increased significantly with the state budget process, and what the state passed in the middle of May is showing increases to some of these accounts that I'm going to list here, but the at-risk account increased by about $2.4 million. The state added another $400,000 to go towards a now 3% increase for our teacher positions. The state also added $500,000 in lieu of the food and hygiene tax, and made some cuts to basic aid, a program that's called Prevention, Intervention, and Remediation, and the sales tax receipts. Now, the way that those usually work is basic aid and the sales tax receipts are a little bit of a shell game. So as one goes down, the other increases and vice versa. But because the state budget increased significantly, that also forces an increase in the local required effort. And so see these numbers here. The SOQ funds increased by over $2 million. You see that the state restricted funds increased by $74,000. All of this had the effect of increasing the city contribution, including what they have to pay in debt services, increased by $782,000 from where we were in March. So our total revenue went from $49.75 million to $52.625 million. So that gives us almost $3 million worth of changes or additions that we're able to work with here. So what we are proposing to do with this, if the board accepts these revisions, is in terms of compensation to give a one-step increase for all employees on the step scales, and then based on the midpoint of their respective scale, give a 5% increase. So that those two measures combined will have approximately a 6% increase for all employees. With benefits, as you go through and look at our accounts, you will notice the benefits cost have increased, but that's because as compensation goes up, the cost of the benefits associated with those also increases. We have been fortunate enough with this to be able to add some positions. So we are, Mr. Ritchie has worked with Dr. Chitwood at the middle school to talk about a new vision for an alternative program there. And this new vision is going to require some additional aids. So we were able to provide those. Our athletics director, this is a situation where there's oftentimes more going on than what one guy can take care of or take on himself. So we are providing an assistant director of athletics. In terms of our behavioral specialist, in March, we had been fortunate enough to keep 5 of those in our budget. And then I'm happy to report that as of today, our budget will allow us to secure 7 of those positions. So we're going to have those staffed with 2 at the primary school, 2 at the intermediate, 2 at the middle school, and 1 at the high school that will work specifically with our alternative ed programs there. In terms of bus aides, we're adding 4 positions to our regular ed buses. We know that there's going to be longer commutes associated with the new school next year. And so we hope that this will help keep things calm on the bus and keep drivers' eyes on the road. There's a clerical position being added to the special ed department to deal with IEPs and making sure that everything is in compliance there. We're adding a custodial foreman. This will be a position that will have eyes on what we do during the day and what we do during the night shift. That there had been some issues where whether it's the day staff missing a detail, the night staff having to pick it up, or vice versa. This will give us someone who is situated to be able to work with each of those shifts and make adjustments as we need to through the year. In March, we had a request for a second EL teacher. Right now, Courtney Profit has that whole caseload to herself, and with adjustments to the SOQs, we're going to be out of compliance if we don't get some more help with the EL teacher position. So we have that budgeted. The board remembers that just a few years ago, we were adding a lot of money to the VR lab, and rather than see that become out of date, we are adding a position to be an interventionist who will work part-time with the middle school and part-time with the high school to increase our usage of that lab, specifically with science and mathematics involved, or targeted rather. We are going to add an in-school detention position. This would be one position at the intermediate school, and we're going to add a second position that will be a split between the middle school and the high school. Right now, because of the number of hours that are given to each of these positions, there's not full coverage at the middle school or the high school. So having one more ISD position in the mix at the secondary school should help us to provide full coverage for that. We're very excited about the next position, a middle school reading support position. This is going to be a licensed teacher who will be able to come in and work with our teachers and our administrators on response to intervention in the reading curriculum. The SOQs do not provide for this type of position per se, so this is going above and beyond, but we realize that with the adoption of new curriculum, that we need to make sure that what is happening in the middle schools, that there's a bridge position there and is being carried forward into the middle schools. We have some adjustments, and there's going to be more formal announcement about this coming just slightly around the corner from now, but we're going to be making a promotion, and I'd like to give a round of applause to Dr. Denabraga. She will be moving to Assistant Superintendent for the upcoming school year. Pending board approval. Our student services resource position, Ms. Sarah DeBusk, who was here earlier, that position, as the board may recall, began as a 12-month position, but during the years we were having trouble filling that vacancy. We had re-advertised it as a 10-month position to try to attract a different candidate pool, and just seeing how she has taken to that job vigorously, we realize that needs to be reinstalled as a 12-month position. We have some supplemental adjustments for some of the professionals who provide specialized instruction for our students with disabilities. This includes our educational psychologist, speech pathologist, and audiologist positions. Without these positions and some of the things that we're required to provide to students who have IEPs, in the absence of having these professionals in-house, we would have to contract for these services. And so this is good for the employee and good for the division as far as a cost-saving measure. We have a couple technical adjustments. At this point, we are looking at moving 2 salaries. And I'm sorry, this is kind of technical and nerdy, but in our Title VI-B funding, which is primarily for special education, we're moving 2 salaries out of that into the local budget, which gives us a little bit more spending power in Title VI-B. And the same thought process applies to moving 1 position from the Title II funding to local funding and 1 position from Title IV to local funding. Title II and Title IV are different grants, but we have carried positions in there previously, but the local budget is now healthy enough that we should be able to move those into the local and free up more ability within those grants to provide other services. A few additional items. This budget is going to allow us to purchase more school buses, and right now we have budgeted for at least 2 school buses, but there's enough contingency here that if need be, we can add a 3rd bus. We have increased staff development and travel accounts. We've made increases to the purchase services for maintenance and transportation. We have, this year has taught us that we never want to have to dip into this account, but we have added to the budget for legal fees for special education. We are purchasing a 1-year subscription with very likely multiple years beyond that for a paint sprayer for the athletics fields. Right now, it takes Parks and Rec several man hours. I've heard estimates as high as about 30 man hours to paint the fields for our athletic contests, and this paint sprayer would be an automated system, which would free up the city staff to do some other things. We do have plans to refinish the gym floor at the middle school, and we are targeting a time period between the end of volleyball season and the start of basketball to do that. Some changes in Virginia code are going to require us to look at our school support organizations' financial statements a little bit more closely. So whether that is an audit or just providing financial oversight, we have budgeted money to take care of that. We have increased the number of slots that we will have for the Virginia Preschool Initiative, and so we had to increase our matching funds for that by about $43,000. We have budgeted $30,000 for the virtual reality lab software to make sure that we expand our catalog for students. And again, that's going to be specific to or primarily for science and mathematics, which statistically, with our test scores right now, we know that that's going to continue to be an area where we need to improve. And then we have some upgrades and replacements and additions to the school banners and exterior benches. As we are preparing to open schools that all begin with Virginia as the first word in their naming convention, we want to make sure that we have a unified appeal at all of our schools. And so we are going to put some money into making sure that our schools all stand out and have kind of a uniform look from the curbside. And we have also had some preliminary discussions with the city about Gene Malcolm Stadium and some upgrades that need to take place there. And it's not just football, but football and baseball and softball and soccer, and making sure that the experience for our students and for our families and for the whole Bristol community, we have a better experience there at the field. And while we don't want to get into cost sharing with some of the major renovations that need to happen there, we do feel responsibility to take care of some of the sound systems that are in operation there. And we know that with the Bristol Rhythm and so forth, that there are partnerships that are on the horizon, and we want to be good stewards of the fields that we use over there. So we have included money in the budget to address some of those things. As I wind down here and open this up for any questions that I might field from the board, I want to make sure to say a special thank you to Mrs. Tammy Jones, our CFO, for all the hard work that she puts into the budget. Want to thank Jennifer Hurt, our Director of Federal Programs, for everything that she does. Jennifer is outstanding at understanding that sometimes we need some flexibility, and she is very creative in helping us find ways to address things through our federal grants that we can't always provide for just with the local and state funding. I want to thank the members of the school board for your feedback and for your patience through this process. You know how difficult some of these decisions are, and I'm so relieved that the state came through and took some of that heartburn away from us. I'd like to thank our friends at City Council and the City Manager's Office, and I'd like to thank members of our Southwest Virginia delegation for what they're able to do when they speak on our behalf in Richmond. So with that, I'll open it up to the board if you have any questions.
I'm a little confused about the English learning or English learner position.
Okay. We have students in our system who English is not their primary language, and when they come to us, we have to provide services for them.
So we have enough that we need two?
Well, the way that the state SOQs are changing is those students are leveled, and so depending on how many at each level you have, it has different staffing ratios, and as those lean more towards more interventions for students, then we're going to be at a point where we're out of compliance. And so our intention right now is to advertise for a full-time EL position and hope that we're able to find that. But as a fallback plan, at the very least, hire an interventionist who would be a licensed teacher with those same credentials. He might be able to help Ms. Profit with that caseload.
So as far as the students that need this help, for the most part, they're Hispanic.
That's what our statistics bear out right now, yes, sir.
But we have some Vietnamese people in town too.
Yes, sir.
Nobody knows that language.
Well, with a position like this, it is not like a Spanish class. That this is more about helping the students for whom English is not their primary language, helping them to become acclimated and immersive in English, helping to bridge that gap. So there are strategies that Ms. Profit can put into place, and if we're fortunate enough to hire for this position, different strategies that will help those students survive in our classes.
Okay.
I'm really, really excited to be sitting here today and hear this much better budget. I'm really excited about Dr. Denabrica's new move and that we're going to be able to get some assistance for Mr. Harper because he's doing a lot for us that people don't see behind the scenes. But I'm really excited about the English learner teacher position. I feel like that's been something that has seemed really out of reach for a couple years. I know I've talked with Ms. Hurd about it and like, how can we get Ms. Profit some additional help? And the numbers were almost there, but not quite to justify a second teacher. So I'm really glad that things have shifted and we're going to be able to do that. That feels like a real victory. So thank you all. All right.
At this time, I think we need
Motion
a
on
motion
the-
from the board.
Is there a motion to approve the budget?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as is.
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Jones?
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes?
Mr. Goodpaster,
Yes.
Mrs. Guffey,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes Hubbard.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. Next, we'll go on to 5B, approval, I lost it. Approval of the closure of the 4 elementary school bank accounts and opening 2 new bank accounts.
Yes, ma'am. With the closing of our schools, one of the things that we have to make sure that we account for is the activity funds at each of those schools, and basically closing them and moving that money into the 2 new schools. If we need to get very detailed on this, Mrs. Tammy Jones is prepared to step in, but we anticipate one question would be about how much money are we talking? Excuse me. And so that's approximately $40,000 for all 4 schools combined. And this would be money that is generated through sale of yearbooks and so forth.
Is there a motion to approve the closing of these accounts and open 2 new accounts?
I'll make a motion to close the
I'll second it.
4 and open the 2.
Just for edification, how do we generate these funds in these schools? Where's the money come from?
So this would be, for instance, with sale of yearbooks and so forth, or any kind of different fundraisers that might happen. Typically, they might fundraise to go on field trips and so forth. Mrs. Jones, bail me out here a little bit if there's.
Is it vending machines and things like that too?
Yes, if the school has a vending machine, yes.
Okay.
And Ms. Jones, these are separate, right, from the PTO funds that result in the
They're
scholarships?
separate from
Separate, okay.
PTO. However, the PTO, let's say for Van Pelt, they dissolved last year, so their funds reverted to the school, so they're in that 40,000.
Okay.
The only other school I know of is Stonewall's PTO, and they will dissolve. However, they said, their bylaws say, but it'll revert back to the school.
Thank you. So do we anticipate I know they kind of talked about this at the senior luncheon, but do we anticipate that there will be a new scholarship each year for the Virginia primary and intermediate schools like there has been for the 4 elementary schools, or do we anticipate that that's done, or maybe you don't know the answer? It's okay if you
I
don't.
don't know the
That's fine.
answer.
Do you know the answer?
It
No.
would just be up to the
Schools.
PTO.
Okay, so it'll be like
Some
a,
of them get different things.
okay.
One to close theirs out, they put all the money into 2 scholarships this year.
Right.
Instead of just awarding 1.
Right.
And
Okay.
It'll just be the PTO for
Okay.
whatever they want to do.
And if they have new PTOs established, will the money go back to the PTOs that they put into the activity fund, or they start from scratch?
They'll start.
Okay,
from scratch.
thanks. All right, I think we're ready to vote. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Goodpaster,
Yes.
Mrs. Guffey,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes Hubbard.
Yes. All right, next action item is to remove policy KO and approve regulation KMAR. Is this Mr. Ritchie or Dr. Scott?
I'm sorry.
Would
Mrs.
you like me
Jones.
to take the lead?
Yes, please.
So our old policy for school support organizations was about 7 pages long, and we never really were able to follow that policy. So when Dr. Scott came, he showed me Martinsville policy, and I felt like an idiot because their policy's like 3 sentences and covered everything that we really need to cover. So long story short, we're getting rid of the old policy KO, which was about 8 pages long of a bunch of stuff. And our new regulation, because VSBA did a policy KMA, is the new policy that talks about relationships with parent organizations. So then we did a regulation, whereas we will require an audit or some kind of agreed upon procedures for any school support organization, and the school board will determine the amount that the organization pays, and then we'll pay a portion of it. And this policy will go into effect for any, after January 1st, for any organization that fiscal year begins on or after that date. So if we have probably band boosters, I don't know what their year is, but if it starts July 1 of 2024, January 1, sorry, then 2025, then December 25, they'll have an audit or these agreed upon procedures.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve removal of policy KMO and approval of regulation KMAR?
I make a motion to approve the removal of policy KO and add the regulation KMAR.
Second.
Further discussion? No question? Good. All right, Ms. Jones?
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Goodpaster,
Yes.
Mrs. Guffey,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes Hubbard.
Yes. All right, next action item is approval of several new policies. Mr. Ritchie?
Madam Chair, members of the board, you approved tonight in the consent agenda, VSBA pushed out a host of policies, and it was a long list, and I'm sorry for sending so many to you. But these policies and regulations that are before you tonight, they are new policies. 3 of those policies are related to the Virginia Literacy Act, and there are 2 additional regulations that were added. As I was reviewing policy BDDH and policy KD, they are companion policies. You approved those updates tonight, but inside that policy, it makes reference to regulations. And when I read that policy, I realized we did not have a regulation in place, and it specifically speaks to the process that is used when we have individuals who are coming to address the board. And it's really the protocol that we already follow, but we did not have that spelled out in policy. So you would be approving that regulation as well.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Is there a motion to approve policies AG, GCA, IGBD?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
So like this literacy plan, it just follows the state law?
It does. And in fact, I think probably in July, there will be a presentation that will be coming forth, the literacy plan that has been developed. And actually, we have had a group who have been working on that literacy plan all year long. So that presentation I'm anticipating it will be coming very soon. So we are already doing these things, but it's just being, we are putting it in policy.
And I think with the paperwork that we're going to be submitting for the state, that it says that we will have that at a meeting in August, but we can be prepared to do that in July if you'd prefer.
Does it emphasize reading by the third grade?
It definitely does. There is great rigor in the entire process.
Do we have a target on what we want to accomplish in the first year on that?
We do. I mean, very specific goals have been established. We were required to provide professional development training. We are using a program called Letters Training that all of our elementary staff will be going through. We have purchased Amplify. It is approved by the state, high-quality instructional materials, and we will be training teachers on that. So there are a large number of initiatives. We have 3 or 4 primary goals that are tied in with the Virginia Literacy Act that we are adopting for this first year.
So in fact, all our students will be English learners?
Most definitely, yes, sir.
Just one point of information when we're talking about VSBA policy updates. There's been a lot of attention paid to this recently, and Jenny Nichols, who is the chairwoman of the Washington County School Board, wrote an editorial that was published, I believe, today in Cardinal News about the policy updates from VSBA and how those come about and how they come into play in our school system. So if anyone is interested in that, that is out there for you to read. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Goodpaster,
Yes.
Mrs. Guffey,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes Hubbard.
Yes. All right, moving on to action item 5E, approval of granting the superintendent permission to hire new employees between June 4th, 2024 and June 30th, 2024 in consultation with the school board.
I'll make a motion to approve granting superintendent permission to hire.
Second.
Ms. Jones?
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Goodpaster,
Yes.
Mrs. Guffey,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes Hubbard.
Yes. And Ms. Guffey, if you will read us into closed session, please.
Pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the board convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following matters: discussion of certain personnel, recommendation for employment, and resignations.
Second.
Ms. Jones?
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Goodpaster,
Yes.
Mrs. Guffey,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes Hubbard.
Yes. All right, thank you all for coming out tonight. We are now in closed session. Guffey, would you like to read us back in?
The Bristol, Virginia School Board certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting, and only such public matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were considered.
Second.
Ms. Jones?
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Goodpaster,
Yes.
Mrs. Guffey,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes Hubbard.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve attachment A?
I make a motion to approve attachment A.
I'll second it.
Ms. Jones? Awesome.
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Goodpaster,
Yes.
Mrs. Guffey,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes Hubbard.
Yes. Dr. Scott, did you want to?
Yes, I wanted to offer a point of clarification. In the budget presentation, when we announced that Dr. Denabraga was going to be promoted to an assistant superintendent position, I want to clarify that does not mean that Mr. Ritchie is no longer an assistant superintendent, but in fact, BVPS will be graced with both of them in assistant superintendent roles. So we did not want an unintended message to be heard there. So we will have two outstanding assistant superintendents.
Yes, graced is a very good word for that, absolutely. Any old or new business? All right, we are adjourned.
We're all good.